Good morning. Welcome this morning. Wednesday morning. Hey, Brandy, welcome this morning. Karen Faust, good morning to you. Welcome, everybody. You know, I still haven't figured out this whole Facebook live stream thing with regard to the order in which I see people joining us. So I see Wendy, Steve and Andrea, Suzanne and Daryl, Alyssa, welcome. But the number that of people that I see coming in, that it tells me your actual names, Barbara Del Rio, Carmen, Mike and Joe, welcome. And then the number at the top of the screen, they don't match. Bob and Claudia, welcome from Mesquite. Jan from Shaver Lake, welcome. And the order of the names that come in don't match either. When I watch it later, the names are coming in a different order than I see them. So, welcome, Deanne. Tara, good morning. So, Steve and Lisa, good morning. Great to see your names here. Jim and Kathy Fuente, welcome to you this morning. We're back from our week-long camping trip on the northern coast of California at Anchor Bay, and it was absolutely beautiful. And you know, it's vacation like that is one of my favorite types of getaways because sometimes you do something really fun where you're out, you're sightseeing, and you're doing all these things every day, and has a lot of stimuli for your investment of your time. And you're seeing new things, you're doing these really fun activities, and that has its place. But when you're going camping on the coast and there's really nothing to do all day except for connect with people, sit on the beach, go fishing if you want to, read a book, which I did all of those things. I didn't go fishing, but which again, it kind of speaks to the nature of the fact that didn't really. I mean, I would have loved to have fished, but didn't feel like it, so I didn't. Your day is filled with nothing. I loved that kind of vacation. Just connecting with people, just relaxing, waking up when you wanted to wake up, and having a leisure morning, a leisure day. I needed that. I needed that time away, and the beauty of the coast was so refreshing, and I'm so grateful even yesterday that Sierra took over my live stream for one day that enabled Martha and I to pack up and leave in a timely manner to get on the road, and so we get home, because there's so much work to do when you get home. You're unloading, you're putting things away, you're starting laundry, it just takes a while. And so we're all done with that, and we're grateful to be back. So here I am, back with you all this morning on this nice, beautiful Wednesday morning. We're in Psalm 75 today, and I'm going to comment on it from a kind of an indirect angle, because just out of more personal, more personal nature for me. This last week, there's been some commonality with 2 or 3 nights, and last night was another one of them, where I've had, if you've known me for any length of time, you know that I dream a lot. I'm very active in my dream life. Mostly it's fun and adventure, and they're entertaining dreams to me. But occasionally, my dreams are stressful or even borderline disturbing at times, where I wake up just very unsettled from them. And usually those dreams happen when there's some external things going on in my life that are really kind of touching my heart and my emotions. And they're because they're so out of the ordinary for me, they always cause for me to reflect and say, okay, what's going on? What's going on in my life that my sleep life is being disrupted? A couple nights ago, I was up in the middle of the night and couldn't go back to sleep because of the things that were on my mind. And just to be honest, the things that have been on my mind, the things that have been so troubling to me, is leading the responsibility of leading a congregation through a time of such uncertainty and the unsettled nature of it, where we're being facing this pandemic. We're also facing the pressure from government to comply to certain guidelines that feel like they're an infringement on our freedom. And people are looking to you as a leader to say, what are you going to do? And, it for someone like me in my own heart, it just weighs on you. You can't help but not be impervious. We can't be impervious to the pressures of these types of things. And so when I woke up this morning, I was really looking for some guidance, some direction from the Lord, first and foremost. And the two Psalms that really stuck out to me were Psalm 15 and Psalm 75. I'm going to read more from Psalm 75, but Psalm 15 really helped ground me. That was the first psalm that I read this morning. It really grounded me when God says, who's going to stand on my holy hill? It's those whose walk is upright and they're blameless. They're seeking after me. They're doing the things that following after my heart. And I was so grateful. God, thank you for that psalm this morning. Thank you that you kind of reassured me. Hey, I'm here. You're my child. You're living a life that is pleasing to me, and you're obviously not perfect. You're a human being, but God understands our frailty, and He is there to. He just assured me this morning, I'm right there with you. You're doing what I want you to do. And then to flip forward to Psalm 75, and that's the psalm I want to read more of this morning, is the assurance of God's judgment. What is God? How is God judging us, and so on? Because judgment of my ability to lead well is kind of at the forefront of my mind and what's keeping me up at night, right? So this was a timely psalm for me. I'm going to read parts of it to you. Psalm 75, verse 1, "We give thanks to you, O God. We give thanks, for your name is near. We recount your wondrous deeds. At the time that I appoint, I will judge with equity." These are the words of God. "When the earth totters and all its inhabitants, it is I who keep steady its pillars." So this kind of emotes or invokes a picture of, when the world's going crazy, it totters back and forth, and like, whoa, things are unsettling right now. God's saying, you know what? I'm the pillars. I will judge. I will keep steady the pillar. Okay, it's me who is going to be the one who is going to guide you through this. So if I'm ultimately acting as judge, who am I looking for? So the psalmist goes on. "I say to the boastful," this is again God's perspective, "do not boast. And to the wicked, do not lift up your horn. Do not lift up your horn on high or speak with haughty neck." The idea of a horn has to do with authority and power. And says, for not from the east or from the west, and not from the wilderness comes lifting up, but it is God who executes judgment, putting down and lifting up, putting down one and lifting up another. For in the hand of the Lord there is a cup with foaming wine, well mixed, and He pours out from it, and all the wicked of the earth shall drain it down to the dregs. In other words, like this is the cup of judgment, that ultimately people who act wickedly, people who are abusing the power, they're not recognizing that it is God who put them in a place of power or put them in a place of responsibility, and they're misusing that in their own pride. God says, they're going to answer for their lack of acknowledgement of the creator of the universe who has put them in that position. And I'm not talking about the ultimate authorities of governments and so on over a nation. I'm talking about anybody in authority, right? But, this is verse 9, "I will declare it forever. I will sing praise to God, the God of Jacob. All the horns of the wicked will be cut off, but the horns of the righteous shall be lifted up." And so ultimately, in the end, God is the one who judges. God is the one who is responsible overall of how his plan is working out. He will call to account those who are walking in his ways and those who are walking according to their own ways, apart from the pillars of God, who is unmoved by all of these teeterings of a pandemic or an election year, and all the guidelines that we have to comply by and so on. And it was just such a good thing to remind me that ultimately I'm going to be judged not as a pastor, not whether I kept guidelines or not guidelines, whether I had somebody wear a mask in church or not. I'm going to be judged according to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it was a great reminder to me to, there's a phrase that was said years ago that keeps coming to mind every once in a while, and that is this, that the most important thing in leadership as a pastor, the most important thing is to keep the most important thing the most important thing. So what are the pillars of God that don't move? For me, for the church, it is lifting up his name. It is preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. It is making disciples of all nations. It is creating a community of faith. It is growing and maturing in that faith. That keeping that main thing is what should be at the forefront of our attention all of the time. And for now, we are forced to have elder meetings that on the agenda is, should we make people wear masks or not? Should we sing or not in our service? This takes up a lot of time in our elder meeting, and we're being forced because of our current situation to make that the subject of our elder meetings. When the primary thing we should be doing is praying for a congregation, lifting them up in discipleship, and how do we grow in faith? How do we continue to be a light in a dark place, to expand the kingdom of God in this world? That is the main thing. Though we're forced to talk about these other secondary issues, and they're important. I'm not minimizing their importance. They're important to you. They're important to me. And we have to make those decisions. But here's the deal. I have to remember that those secondary decisions are secondary. Those secondary topics are not the primary issue. When we make them the primary issue, that's when we go wrong. And that's what God will judge me for. If I am getting caught up in these other things and trying to win the approval of my congregation, and let's just be honest, today's, particularly American church, we are so consumer-minded. I'm not saying that with just some righteous indignation or whatever. What I'm saying is the reality of what we face as pastors is that people choose churches based upon their personal preferences. Do I like this church? It's rarely chosen based upon doctrine, on the upright character of the pastor or the leadership. I mean, yes, those things are important. I'm not saying they aren't important to people. What I'm saying, though, in my experience and what I see mostly is people will choose your church or some other church, not based upon those things primarily, but more secondarily. Primarily is, do I like the music? Do I feel good about the pastor's messages and his approach to ministry, or his, the leadership teams? Do they have a good kids program? I mean, those are the things that really drive how we choose a church. And the reality in that type of consumer climate of trying to choose whether we should wear a mask or not, and people's approval ratings and so on, that can drive you crazy. And so it's so important to be reminded. And I was so encouraged this morning. I'm losing sleep over this stuff, right? God saying, hey, you are my child. You are walking before me in an upright, with your integrity. You're doing the right things. What am I going to judge you for? I'm going to judge you for whether or not you're preaching the gospel. I'm going to judge you not whether or not you're making disciples. Are you being a light for Jesus Christ in your community, in your world? And yes, you have to make some decisions with regard to some of these secondary issues. But remember, I feel like God was saying to me, those are secondary issues. Those aren't the primary things. I'm not going to judge you based upon whether or not you required people to wear masks or not. I will judge you whether or not you promoted the gospel, whether or not you created a family of believers that lived for my glory. And so that was so encouraging to me today. It kind of honestly just lifted a weight off my shoulders to like, yeah, keep the main thing the main thing. You have to make decisions about, what color to paint a wall, or, to purchase a piece of equipment. You have to help make some of those decisions in our modern era, what to include in a worship service, what not. But keep the main thing the main thing. Is the gospel of Jesus Christ being promoted? Is that your thing? Yes, I want to say yes, that is my thing. So I want to encourage you in the midst of this world, what is the main thing for you as a believer of Jesus Christ? What is it that God is really asking you to do? And in the end, what is he going to judge us for? Now remember, I'm not talking about those people in leadership positions just like me who have responsibility over entire congregation. That feels very weighty, but we all have responsibility. We all have a responsibility before God. We as individuals will stand before God at some point, and we're going to answer for our lives. Now, thankfully, those of us who have placed our faith in Jesus Christ, we're definitely not going to be judged for our sin. Jesus has already paid the penalty for that. We're in. We have an e-ticket to heaven, right? We are enjoying a relationship with God. But everybody still has to make choices about how we lived our life. And I want to encourage you today to don't get overly caught up in all of these crazy things in the world. They are important. I'm not minimizing their importance. But don't make them the primary issue of your life. God has called you to far greater things. If you're raising children, if you're going to work to support your family or just to support yourself and to pay the bills, how you conduct your life, how you do that with integrity, how you do that while displaying your faith to people around you, those are primary things that matter to God, that ultimately God will judge us for. And so let's make sure that we are keeping those things primary in our life. And though we are forced to make some secondary decisions about secondary issues like COVID-19 and so on, and judge whether or not we should do one thing or another thing, keep in mind those are secondary things. And so yes, they affect us and all that, but keep Jesus first. Keep Jesus on the throne. Make sure that he is the one that we are promoting with our life and with our words every single day. Keep in prayer for one another. And let's make sure that we're keeping the main thing today. All right. So today's Wednesday. So tomorrow I'll be back here with another psalm. So praying for you today. Be blessed today. And we'll see you again tomorrow.